Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today's video is going to be about the lessons that I have learned as a beginner on how to properly use the transform tool. And I'm pretty much sure that anyone who is trying to learn Adobe Illustrator would like to know some of the things that a basic student or a new student might want to know about the transformation tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the rectangle tool and draw a simple rectangle, and we are going to talk about some of the ways in which we can work with this object and transform it. So tip number one, the first tool known as the selection tool. The shortcut for it, as it's written here, is the letter V. So you can always come back to the default tool by simply pressing V. So if I press this, I can come back to V. I have pressed this, I can press V, I can come back here. So what this tool allows us is to move the complete object, or if I have multiple objects, I can press V. I can individually move them separately, or I can draw over it and select move all the objects together. This is the first thing. I'll delete these two objects, and when we try to handle this object with the selection tool, what we can do with this, there are three major operations that we can do with this. Is the first one is to simply scale the object. So if I hold from one of the corners, I can scale it. This is the free scaling. What I can do, one more thing that I can do is, if I hold shift and now try to scale it, I cannot scale it freely. It's constrained and it is holding the proportion of the length and the width of the object. And if I press the Alt, only Alt, what it will do is it will scale the whole object around the center of the object, or wherever the anchor point has been kept for the object for rotation or for scaling. In this case, it's right in the center of it. So if I hold it and press Alt, now as you can see, all the four corners will move together. And with this Alt, if I press Shift, so all the four corners will move, and at the same time it will move in a proportionate manner. So this is the first basic function of the selection tool. The other has to do with rotation. If I bring this cursor just outside here at the corner, you can see there's this arrow pointing in two directions that is visible to us. What it allows us is to rotate the object. So I can freely rotate it, and if I press Ctrl Z, come back here, and if I press Shift and rotate it now, it will allow us angles of 45 degrees to move. This is what the selection tool does is. But we can also rotate it according to certain angles. For that, we'll have to come here into the transform tool, and here we can put in the angles. If I want to move it by 20 degrees, I can do so. As you can see, it moves in the anti-clockwise direction, just the way the angle points out here. It's opening out. So these are some of the basic functions of the transform tool. The last one here is that it can also help us to round the corners of the object. But if I want to just round this one corner, it won't allow us. The simple selection tools will round off all the corners. So this is the first thing that we can learn about the transform tool. So now tip number two, that has to do with the second tool called the direct selection tool. This one is called the selection, this one is called the direct selection. So what it simply says here is select and adjust anchor points and segments to reshape paths. So it will allow us to work with these anchor points, and it will allow us to reshape it. So I'll select this tool. The shortcut for this is the letter A. So if I click here and press A, now this tool is highlighted. So how is it different? Just like the normal tool, the selection tool, we can move it, but we can also work with the individual vertices. Now when I try to drag it, as you can see, it's again moving all the four corners, the whole object as a whole. But what I can do is drag over it. Now it will give me just this corner. So this is what the difference is. The first thing that we can notice about the direct selection tool. As I move it freely, I can free transform it. The moment I'll press Shift, it will try to adjust me according to the straight lines or according to fixed angles, so that the movement is highly constrained. So I'll press undo, which is Control Z. The other thing that I can do is I can select 2 points and I can move them together. Similarly, I can select one of these vertices and push it in to give it a more organic shape, giving us better control. I can also select 2 and push it here. In fact, I can select even 3, but when I try to select 3, the box shape that we can see here is obviously squarish, so it's not possible to select 3 with that. For that, we have one more tool. We can come here and press it, and we have the lasso tool here. This will allow me to select the number of vertices in whatever numbers, or if they are multiple or complex objects and they have more corners and anchor points, I can freely select them with this lasso tool. So I will press press A again and come out. Now I have these 3 corners selected. Now if I round it off, as you can see, only 3 of these corners will be changed. So if I press V, come out, and we have this shape. But I'll press again undo and press direct selection tool, or by the keyboard shortcut letter A. This was the tip number 2. Another tip is on how to move this in a fixed manner, just vertical, just like not just as a free-handed movement, but in a restricted manner. One thing is, obviously, you can come here, press it and press shift. This will allow to maintain these straight lines, or you can even select just one and press shift. Press this one and press shift. If I want to go down, I can go down. If I want to go in, I can go inwards like this. But there is one more thing that you can do, which will give you even finer control on how much movement do you have. And for that, what you can do is you can go here in the view, come down here and turn on, first of all, show grids, and go back in view and turn on snap to grids. Now if I zoom in it a bit and select this corner, now it will snap to these grids. This will give you a much better control over whatever you are trying to do. So this is one way on how you can have a better control in having the movement in a fixed direction. So I'll press undo. There is one more thing that you can do is, and that is again, just select 1, 2 or whichever corners you want to do is, and use your keyboard arrow keys. So I will zoom it again a little bit, and since I've selected just this corner, if I move the left arrow key, as you can see, it begins to move slowly. So this allows us and gives us even finer control on the movement of the selected anchor point. I can come here, I can select just this one, and I can move with my mouse, sorry, not mouse, but with the arrow keys on my keyboard. So these are some of the things as a beginner that can come in very handy when you're trying to work with objects. So I'll delete this object and I'll go here in the view. I will hide the grid, and I will also turn off snap to grids so that I have better control over my objects. Having said that, there is tip number 3 on how to better move the object or the vertices. I'll draw again, and for that you will have to press the letter E for elephant. When you press the letter E, this box will turn on, which is called the free transform tool. It gives you a little bit more liberty compared to these two, or a certain kind of special operation that will help you to move with this object. So what I can do is, when I press the letter E, if you're wondering from where is this coming, I'm selecting this and where are all these additional operations stored, for that you can come here, press it down, and from here you can see there are a lot of other operations and tools available in Adobe Illustrator, and the one that I've selected is this one, free transformation tool with the letter E. So I'll just close it in. I have this here. So it's similar to direct selection tool. In fact, when I come here and press Control, keep on pressing Control, as you can see it is absolutely behaving the same as the direct selection tool. The shape of the cursor and the shapes that I get here are pretty much the same. So what else can I do with it? I can select this. As you can see, this is the perspective distort, but what will happen is if I come here and push it in, you can see that this will allow us to move two opposing objects, two points to move in the opposing direction, towards in, towards out. And if I'm holding shift, it will ensure that the change is proportionate and nothing else is happening. If I press undo, I can do this in the other direction as well. Press shift, and as you can see, it can move in opposing direction. So this is one wonderful feature that I didn't know that Illustrator allows me. I had a lot of problem while handling the objects when I had to move. I would always do it individually. So I'll press undo. I'll go to the direct selection tool, go here, push it in with arrow one by one here, or push it and then select this one and push it in. There's nothing wrong with it, and it in fact gives us better control, but with the free selection tool it gives us more freedom and a faster way of working with it. So I'll again delete this because I have changed the corners. So I'll select this again, press E, and I can see here again if I can, and if I want a bit of more control, I can go to view, again turn on show grids and turn on snap to grids. I can go back here, scale it like so on the corners here, and again press E. As you can see now, if I move, hold shift, select this, hold shift, it will allow me to move in a fixed pattern. This can actually increase your workflow and work speed quite a lot. So this is one tool that I really wanted to talk about. So far we have talked about 4 tips. First one was to how to work with the selection tool. The second tip was on how to use the direct selection tool. The third is on how to press the letter E and use the free transform tool. And tip number 4, which was part of this free transformation tool, is to turn on the grids and snap to grids and use that if you want to have a bit of a faster workflow here. By coming here, pressing this, pressing shift, and you can move the things together in. Think out, Control Z, and I can come here and move things faster like so. There is one more operation that we can do. There is also this free distort, which will allow me to work on one corners independently. This is more like the direct selection tool minus the roundedness of the anchor points here. This is how it is different, and at the same time you don't have to first select one thing and then transform it. You can simply go to E, free transform, and start working with the corner, whatever it is, but you have to ensure what the shape originally was. So you can use the free distort and you can start working with this. But when you go here and press the selection tool, as you can see, you can come back and work just the way you were doing before. So I will again press E. There's one more thing that you can do, and that is, I think, by pressing Control and Alt, you can move the opposing corners as well. So this is what you can do with this. You can move the opposing corners. So you can move the, if I draw it again, as I have already worked on the object again and again, so it has distorted its original shape. So as you can see, with the free transform tool you can do quite a lot of operations quickly when it comes to working with the same corners, the side corners, the opposing corners. The next tip that I want to discuss about is how to use this tool called the width tool. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the pen tool. First of all, I'll just go back into view here, turn off the snap to guide, go back here and hide the grid. So we have so far worked with the objects as a whole in transformation basics. The next thing that I want to do is talk about few of the things that you can also do in terms of transformation with the strokes. For this, I will go here and press the pen tool. As you can see, the shortcut to pen tool is P, so I can simply press P and it will become a pen. So I can hold and draw a shape freely like this. So this is what the pen tool can do. There's so many things that I'll talk about it in the future. So right now, all I'm gonna do is just click on it, click at one point, hold shift to keep it a straight line and do it like this, and then press escape, or you can simply again press V. So I come back here in selection tool. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna work with the color of the stroke. So as you can see right now, the fill option is turned on. I'll go down here and turn on the stroke option. I'll set the fill to none. As you can see, it has given, if I zoom in, or I can simply go here to properties, the stroke properties, and thicken up the stroke a bit so that you can see it easily. Let's make it to like 6. Now this is still just one stroke. As if I zoom in, you can see there is one line passing through it, which is the path, and it is not an object, neither is it a fill, it's a stroke. So what I can do is I can select this stroke and come here and press this called the width tool, and I can vary the thickness of it. All I have to do is come here, and anywhere I want to vary the thickness of the stroke. Let's say I want to do it on the corner where it says anchor, I can just push it out like this. So this is stroke. As you can see, there is still just one single line running from the center, but I have been able to change the width of the stroke. I can do again the same thing at the corner here as well. In fact, I can do it in between as well. Wherever I want, I have to press it, and I can keep on adding the corners and change the shape of the object to whichever style or way I want it. But if I come back here and press the selection tool, as you can see, it still highlights it as a stroke. I'll change it to a little bit of a mild color. Not in the fill. You see, I pressed the wrong option. I need to go to the fill. Come here, and as you can see, there is still this straight line going through, so the effect has been applied to a stroke. So what I want is I can now change the stroke into a proper object. All I have to do is go here, object, and press expand the appearance. Now the stroke has been turned into a shape. This is the 5th tip that I wanted to talk about, and turn the stroke width individually at many multiple points. And at the same time, the 6th tip was to how to turn this stroke into a shape. The last one, the 7th tip that I want to talk about in terms of transformation, is the tool just below here, the pen tool, which is the anchor point tool. As you can see, there are a lot of anchor points right now. I can turn an anchor point. If I come back here and hover, it says switch between anchor point types to make angles or curves. So I can turn an angle or a curve to an angle. If I press it, it allows me to move it, or I can simply give this a nice little curve, so I can turn it into a curve, or if I choose any other point, I can turn it into an angle. It gives me an angle, or if I hold and drag it, I can turn it into a curve. So take any point, click it once, it turns into an angle which the Illustrator software calculates on its own depending on the shape. If I press this one, as you can see, it has turned into a sharper angle, or I can take any point but hold it and stretch it and turn it into a curve and give it, a unique shape, whichever way I want to do this. So these are some of the beginning things that I wanted to talk about in relation to how to work with strokes and how to work with anchor points and how to use the basic transform tools. And one last thing is, you might have already noticed, if I don't select any of the anchor points, I come close to a line, you can see I can now simply stretch the curve instead of working on point one by one. So these are some of the basic things that I wanted to talk about. It has become quite random shape, so I'll simply just select the whole thing and delete it. So this is it. These were some of the things that I wanted to do and wanted to talk about, that a student might face and run into, how to work with these little points and how to move them in different possible fashions to give you more flexibility on how to work with the software. That's it. As I practice more and get deeper into Adobe Illustrator, I'll keep on sharing my experiences. Thank you so much for watching.